Have you ever found yourself uh, trapped in an elevator with a coworker you barely know?
Oh, that is the
Right.
worst.
Like, you know the exact feeling. The doors slide shut, the mechanical hum kicks in, and the silence just starts stretching out, getting, I don't know, heavier by the absolute second.
You're just watching those floor numbers tick up.
Exactly. You're desperately grasping for absolutely anything to say, and then, almost against your own will, you hear yourself blurt out, "Can you believe this heat?"
Yeah, it is the universal panic button of human interaction. The doors close, the silence hits, and we instantly look to the sky, even when we're, entirely enclosed in a metal box.
Which is so funny. And that feeling, that familiar sense of desperate conversational failure, I guess is exactly what we are decoding today.
That's a great topic.
Yeah, because looking at our deep dive material today, which is the social language of whether small talk, it turns out that blurting out hot enough for you isn't a failure at all.
Not even a little bit.
Right. So our mission today is to uncover why chatting about the rain or the heat isn't just filler, but a beautifully designed, like highly effective tool to instantly connect with anyone.
Which is such an important reframe to start with, I think. Weather talk functions less as a genuine exchange of meteorological information and much more as an accessible entry point to human interaction.
So it's not about the actual weather.
Exactly. When you are in that elevator or standing next to a total stranger at a bus stop, you aren't actually exchanging data about barometric pressure or cold fronts.
Yeah.
You are basically opening a social door.
A social door. I like that. But to really grasp how brilliant this is, we kind of need to understand the underlying mechanics of why we reach for this specific topic so instinctively, right?
Yeah, the universality of it.
Exactly. The sheer universality of the weather means literally everyone is experiencing it simultaneously. Having a flexible vocabulary to describe something everyone is mutually enduring is disproportionately useful compared to, the actual complexity of the topic itself.
Right, because the barrier to entry is literally zero. Zero. You don't need a degree in atmospheric sciences to participate, you don't need to share a cultural background, and you don't even need to speak the same native language perfectly.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, everyone is standing under the exact same sky, which provides this immediate, indisputable shared reality.
Thinking about this mechanism, the best analogy I can come up with is a network ping on a computer.
Oh, a network ping. Okay, I see where you're going with this.
Yeah, so like for anyone unfamiliar, when a computer wants to know if a server is online and reachable, it doesn't immediately try to download a massive file. It just sends out a tiny low-effort signal, a ping.
Right.
It just wants a tiny response back that says, "Hello, I am here and our connection is good."
Yeah.
That is practically what saying "cold out there today, huh?"
Yeah.
actually is.
It's a social ping?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's a social ping. You are simply testing the waters to see if the other system, the other person is receptive to a connection.
I love that. You are sending a low-stakes packet of data. And that low-stakes nature of the topic is, well, it's the secret engine of its power. It bridges the gap between strangers without requiring any intimacy or risking any controversy at all.
Because think about the alternative, right?
Oh, it's disastrous.
If you attempt to open a conversation with a complete stranger by asking about, like, their deepest regrets in life or their political affiliations, that is a massive download request.
The connection instantly crashes.
Literally crashes. If you turn to a stranger at a crosswalk and ask, "Are you afraid of death?"
Mm-hmm.
they are going to physically back away from you.
You get a human 404 error.
A human 404 error, yes.
Exactly. The system just shuts down to protect itself. But the weather allows two people to acknowledge each other's presence and establish a baseline of mutual friendliness without crossing a single boundary.
It's totally safe.
It is the safest possible common ground. It basically tells the other person, I acknowledge you, I am friendly, and I demand absolutely nothing complicated from you.
So for you listening right now, just think about your own default conversation starters. When you are in a situation where you want to seem approachable, but you really don't want to be intrusive, how often do you subconsciously rely on the sky to do the heavy lifting for you?
Probably all the time.
Right. You are probably pinging people all day long without even realizing you're running this exact social software.
And since this ping is so socially vital, the specific words we use to execute it become our essential tools.
The actual vocabulary.
Right. We don't actually use a massive dictionary of terms for these interactions. We rely on a highly specific, high-yield vocabulary to get the job done efficiently.
So if the sky is our default network ping, The specific words we use are the code.
Exactly.
Let's break down this toolkit, starting with temperature. According to the text, there are 3 words that do an incredible amount of heavy lifting in our daily interactions. Those are chilly, mild, and humid.
Chilly is a fascinating starting point, actually.
How so?
Well, it is defined very specifically as a mild cold. It is milder than freezing, but a bit colder than brisk.
Okay, yeah.
And it captures a very specific physical posture. You know, that moment when you need to pull your jacket collar a little tighter, but you aren't actively shivering yet.
Oh, right.
So saying bit chilly out is an effortless ping because it invites immediate physical validation. The other person can just nod and cross their arms to agree with you.
So it's like an observation of comfort almost.
Yeah, exactly.
But then we get to mild, which the text describes as comfortable, moderate weather, in either direction, neither too hot nor too cold.
Right.
And it's generally used to describe a pleasant but entirely unremarkable day. Wait, hold on. I have to challenge this one a bit.
Go for it.
If a day is truly unremarkable, doesn't that make it a terrible conversation topic?
Yeah.
I mean, if the whole goal is to make a connection and the weather is completely boring, isn't pointing out that it's mild just a glaring admission that you have absolutely nothing interesting to talk about?
That's a fair question.
Like, are we just making conversational white noise at that point?
Well, that assumes the goal of the conversation is to be interesting.
Oh,
If we go back to your network ping analogy, you'll see why mild is actually functionally brilliant.
Hmm.
In the context of low-stakes connection, unremarkable is a highly desirable state.
Because it's safe,
Because mild is the ultimate neutral ground.
meaning it requires zero emotional labor.
Precisely. When the weather is mild, there is nothing to complain about, but there is also no extreme joy to share. It allows you to simply state, the conditions around us are acceptable.
Wow, okay.
That is an incredibly gentle, unobtrusive way to initiate an exchange with someone who might be tired or busy or guarded. It isn't boring. It is frictionless. It demands no strong reaction.
Frictionless.
Yeah.
That makes total sense. You aren't asking them to match an extreme emotional state.
Right.
Okay, so chilly and mild sit on this temperature scale. But then we have humid, which operates on a completely different set of rules, right?
Yeah, humid refers purely to the amount of moisture in the air, completely distinct from the temperature itself.
Which is key.
It is a crucial conversational nuance. A day can be 90 degrees and humid, or it can be 50 degrees and humid. Because it operates on a separate axis, it offers a much more textured observation.
It gives you flexibility. Like you can layer it. You can say, wow, it's chilly, but surprisingly humid.
Exactly.
It adds an extra dimension to the observation without making things overly complicated. It feels like you're making a slightly more astute observation, I guess, which gives the other person something specific to react to.
And let's be honest, humidity is almost universally unpleasant, so it bonds people against a common enemy.
The air itself.
Yes, the air itself. It invites a very specific kind of low-stakes commiseration. It gives the other person room to sigh, wipe their forehead, and agree. It's highly interactive.
Okay, so temperature gives us our baseline. But water completely changes the stakes of the interaction.
Oh.
Let's look at precipitation, because the text highlights 2 distinct phrases that do a lot of social work here: pour down and clear up.
Notice how specifically pour down is utilized in everyday speech.
Yeah.
It describes intense, heavy rain, significantly stronger than the basic verb to rain. But the vital detail here is that it is almost always deployed in the past tense.
Wait, really? Let me think about that.
Yeah, you rarely point out the window and say, look, it is pouring down. You just say, it is pouring.
Oh, wow, you're right. But you absolutely turn to your coworker and say, man, it poured down all afternoon yesterday.
Exactly. It is a tool used to describe a specific event that is already concluded.
That is so specific.
And functionally, this creates a shared memory. By bringing up the intense rain from yesterday, you are inviting the other person to validate a shared experience of a minor hardship.
Yes, my commute was a nightmare. Or my basement almost flooded. You instantly have a shared survival story, even if the stakes were incredibly low.
Right. It creates instant camaraderie.
And then, on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, we have clear up.
Which functions as a social offering of optimism.
I love this one.
It's a forecasting phrase used when weather is improving, usually clouds or rain giving way to sunshine. Saying it's supposed to clear up by this afternoon is entirely forward-looking.
It's literally a beacon of hope. You are handing the other person a tiny optimistic gift in the middle of a mundane interaction. Don't worry, the bad thing is ending.
Exactly.
So we have this robust toolkit. We have the temperature words chilly, mild, humid, and the precipitation phrases pour down, clear up. But having the vocabulary is only half the battle. Knowing the words doesn't mean you know how to build a conversation.
Right. Small talk isn't just throwing vocabulary words at someone's face.
Right, you can't just yell humid, mild, and then run out of the elevator.
That would definitely get you some weird looks.
Yeah, no, the fascinating part here is that whether small talk follows a loose but highly recognizable script, there is an actual syntax to this behavior.
It is a very reliable three-part structure.
Okay, let's walk through it.
Step one of this structure is the observation. This is the opening line, the initial ping we talked about earlier. Something straightforward like, can you believe this heat? Or this rain just won't stop.
Okay, that makes sense. And then step two is a brief personal reaction. You connect the external weather to your internal state.
Right.
Like saying, I'm sweating right through my shirt, or I had to drag my heavy winter coat out of the closet again.
And step three is the comparison. You compare the current shared reality to a different day, a different season, or a completely different place.
So, it wasn't nearly this cold last October, or this humidity reminds me of when I lived in Florida.
Yes. Observation, personal reaction, comparison.
It's almost musical. Actually, reading this, it reminded me of a classic jazz standard.
Oh, how so?
Well, think about how jazz musicians operate.
Hmm.
When they play standard, everyone on stage knows the basic underlying melody, right? That is the observation part. It's hot today. We all know that tune.
Okay, I'm with you.
But the personal reaction and the comparison, that is where you get to improvise a little bit. You take a quick solo, you add your own personal flavor, but you always stay in the same key. And you maintain the rhythm so the other person can comfortably jump back in for their solo.
The jazz metaphor is incredibly apt because it highlights the rhythm over the content.
Exactly.
From a psychological standpoint, this three-part script provides immense relief for human beings. If you experience any social anxiety about talking to acquaintances or strangers, this structure completely removes the pressure of having to manufacture something brilliant or uniquely insightful.
The framework is already built for you.
Yeah.
You just have to step into it.
Exactly.
And because it's about the rhythm of the jazz standard, being meteorologically precise actually ruins the interaction.
Oh, completely.
Like if someone says to you, wow, it is definitively the hottest day of the year, and you happen to know for a scientific fact that it was actually 2 degrees hotter last Tuesday.
Yeah.
Do not correct them.
Right. If you stop the conversation to correct them, you are prioritizing raw data over human connection.
You stop the music. Imagine the jazz band is playing smoothly, and you suddenly stop playing to announce, actually, the sheet music says we should be playing a B-flat here. You've completely killed the vibe.
Yeah, the other person isn't asking for a peer-reviewed weather report. They're asking for a moment of shared humanity.
So treating the interaction like a literal exchange of meteorological facts fundamentally misunderstands the assignment.
You have to read the room. The goal of the exchange is to agree, validate, and add a small, harmonious detail to keep the social connection alive.
You know, I want to challenge everyone listening to test this in the real world.
That's a fun experiment.
The next time you are standing in line at the grocery store or waiting for your name to be called at a coffee shop, just listen to the people around you. See if you can spot this exact 3-act script playing out in the wild.
You will definitely hear it.
Someone will say, crazy wind out there today, huh? The barista will reply, yeah, it nearly blew the sign over. And the customer will finish with, it's worse than that storm we had last month.
Observation, reaction, comparison.
Yes. Once you understand the underlying machinery, you will hear this rhythm absolutely everywhere.
It really forms the invisible scaffolding of our daily public lives. But, understanding the script brings us to the final and arguably most important piece of the puzzle.
Okay, the pivot.
Right. The 3-act script is fantastic for starting a conversation. It gets the gears turning perfectly. But how do we prevent the interaction from fizzling out? What happens when you inevitably run out of weather to describe?
The dreaded dead end.
Exactly.
You've talked about the rain, you've compared it to yesterday, you've mutually agreed it's awful, and then the silence falls again, and you're still stuck in the elevator for 10 more floors.
The panic returns.
So how do you pivot from this functional small talk into actual meaningful connection?
Linguistically, the source material points out that the most natural extension of this is moving from the external weather to seasonal preferences. It is the perfect, seamless pivot.
So you ask a simple question like, do you have a favorite season? Or What is your absolute least favorite kind of weather?
It seems like a minor shift, but functionally, the leap is massive.
Because it's personal.
Right. You are inviting a much more personal answer. You are moving from a shared objective physical reality, which is this current weather, to an internal, highly subjective personal preference.
But wait, think about that for a second.
Okay.
Up until this point, we have established that the magic of weather talk is how incredibly safe it is. It's neutral, it's objective, it's frictionless. But by asking for a favorite season, aren't we suddenly introducing risk?
How do you mean?
Well, we are moving from it is raining into subjective opinions where people can easily disagree. What if I ask you your favorite season and you say you passionately love winter and I happen to despise the snow?
Right. I see what you're saying.
Haven't we just created conflict in our perfectly frictionless conversation?
It's a great observation, but that slight friction is actually a feature, not a bug.
How does that work?
Well, a disagreement about seasonal preferences introduces what we might call micro stakes.
Microstake.
Yes. If I love winter and you despise it, we aren't going to have a fundamental moral falling out. It isn't a dangerous disagreement. But that tiny bit of friction is exactly what generates a real dynamic conversation. It naturally invites the sharing of personal anecdotes to explain the preference.
Oh, so it forces a story.
Exactly. You might reply, I hate winter because I grew up in upstate New York and had to shovel snow every single morning before school. Notice what just happened there.
We aren't talking about the weather anymore.
We are no longer talking about the barometric pressure in the elevator. We are talking about your childhood. We are talking about where you grew up.
Wow. The disagreement actually fuels the transition.
It really does.
The weather served its entire purpose. It opened the door, it tested the connection with a safe ping, and now you can confidently step through that door into a slightly longer, much more rewarding human interaction. You've successfully moved from the sky to the person.
The mechanism is elegant when you think about it. It safely navigates two humans from being complete strangers to sharing personal histories, all within the span of like a 2-minute elevator ride.
That is just brilliant. Let's pull all of this together for the listener because the journey of understanding this is really fascinating. We started in that awkward silent elevator, viewing weather small talk as a tired cliche, a desperate fallback when we lack the imagination to say something profound.
Right, but decoding the social machinery reveals that it is actually the ultimate social glue.
It is a highly sophisticated, intuitively understood system of human connection.
It really is.
And now you listening have the decoded toolkit. You understand the high-yield vocabulary. You know the physicality of chili. You understand how mild creates a safe, frictionless, neutral ground. And you know how humid operates on a secondary axis to invite commiseration.
And you know how to leverage pour down to create a shared memory of a past event, and how to use clear up to offer a little psychological optimism.
You also understand the structural rhythm, the jazz standard, the observation, the personal reaction, and the comparison.
Just keep the melody going. Agree, validate, and respond.
Right, you aren't giving a meteorological report. You're just being open to a social exchange. And when the well of current weather runs completely dry, you know how to execute the pivot.
Ask about their favorite season.
Invite that tiny bit of subjective friction to safely transition from small talk into genuine connection.
Applying this knowledge fundamentally changes how you experience public spaces, I think.
Definitely.
The next time you send that social ping, you will understand the complex machinery you are operating. But, if we pull back and look at the broader implications of this entire mechanism, it relies entirely on one fundamental premise.
Which is?
That the weather is a shared, unavoidable physical reality.
Right. We are all physically standing under the exact same sky.
For now, yes. But here's a critical question to consider as human spaces rapidly evolve.
Okay, I'm listening.
Weather serves as our universal opening script because it is the one physical phenomenon we are guaranteed to be experiencing together. But what happens to this vital social machinery as we spend increasingly more time in perfectly climate-controlled indoor environments?
Oh, wow.
Think about modern offices, massive indoor malls, or underground transit systems where the temperature is permanently engineered to be exactly 72 degrees and perfectly mild.
The weather is completely erased from the equation.
Right. Or take it even further. As we interact more and more in purely digital spaces, remote work environments, virtual reality, online communities, the shared physical weather literally does not exist.
We lose the universal ping.
Exactly. If we slowly lose the shared physical experience of a chaotic, unpredictable sky, what will step in to fill that void? What will become the new weather small talk of the future? What is the new universal low-stakes ping when there's no sky to look up at?
That is a wild thought to leave on. The next time you step into an elevator, the doors close, the heavy silence stretches out. Well, and you realize the building is a perfectly engineered, unchanging 72 degrees. What do you say then? Something for you to ponder. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us. Catch you next time.